Hello and welcome to this edition of Tips and Tricks. Now today I'm going to be talking about my go-to spinnerbait. Oh, it's upside down, fancy that. My go-to spinnerbait. I know most people have a go-to bait in whatever style of bait they're fishing. Well, this is mine when I'm using a spinnerbait. And I'm going to get into why I like this one. And just coincidentally, I actually did design this spinnerbait. So I said, this is mine. This is what most people use. I know that. Actually, another one I designed, but I actually just don't fish it much. And I actually designed them, you know, the double blade, double spinnerbait. Sometimes it's a Colorado and a willow like this. Sometimes it's a willow and willow, or sometimes even 3 blades. But this seems to be what most people throw when they throw a spinnerbait. And well, in the industry, and if you go to shop for them, this is pretty much all you can find are the double blade. And I was like, well, all right, a lot of people like to use them. I'll design one. This is actually designed off a really old Elite Strike King spinnerbait, the double blade one. It's 3/8. It's your standard spinnerbait that most people throw. If you have confidence in it, that's cool, but I have always outfished this style of spinnerbait with my go-to, which is this single blade little 1/4 ounce. It's our Pro spinnerbait. I have it upside down again. Why do I keep putting it upside down? This one right here, our Pro spinnerbait. And all right, well, let me just get into why I designed this. Let me get it out of here. Let me get it out of our packaging. Okay, here we go, here we go, here we go. All right, there it is. Now you can see it out of the package. Now see, back in the 80s and stuff, you used to be able to find a lot of these little single blade spinnerbaits. Now you can find them, some cheaper ones and stuff. You find them at like Walmart or Academy, those kind of things. You will find a little single blade spinner bait like this, but usually they're very cheap. They have the wires just bend out. This is a nice brass blade. They use like steel blades. I mean, you can find them some places, but like I said, if you go to more of the quality and you look at catalogs and that, it's all this style right here, which is the double blade, or double Colorado, double willow Colorado. That seems to be, like I said, always what people use. But I always fished these when I started. And like I said, I could never find them, or I could never find them of quality. So I started designing our own. And that's where this one came about. Now this is only 1/4 ounce, but it's the full size. It's actually, the wire and the bend and everything is actually the same size as this. And because of that, and the single blade in that, it casts really well. It casts just like, you know, a 3/8. Maybe not so much as a 1/2 ounce spinnerbait. But you can throw it good, you can throw it good in the wind. But I just think it's, people always say something different. Like the bass see so much of that double blade. They don't really see too many of these little single blades. And if you do find them nowadays, they're for night fishing. They put on a big like number 6 cupped blade. They're like 1/2 ounce, 3/4, 5/8. They're really heavy. They're meant for like night fishing, really slow because of that big thump. But I'm telling you, this thing outfishes what most people fish with a spinnerbait. I'm talking probably 90% of the time. Now years ago when I first designed this, I sent it back. I sent these to a kid that lived back on the upper Mississippi, and he fished them. He did some videos with it. He's like, oh my God, guy, this thing is outfishing. In ponds, I've never caught them on spinnerbaits. I'm catching good fish on the spinnerbait. And then he went to the Mississippi River and he had his brothers, and he was catching so many of them on the little single blade, and they were throwing the doubles. But they were all like trying to switch out and trying to make their double blades a little single Colorado, because he was having so much success on it. And I also have. Another thing too is I usually use, in this, I usually use a baby bass color, or I use like a bream or a bluegill color, something darker or something that resembles a predator fish, not a bait fish like this sexy shad. Look at that, guys. How is this on Google Earth? That's the guy refreshing the satellite. Did you see that? It was in Google with all the cameras and that, and he just drove down the street. So I'm going to be on there doing my show. That's pretty funny. Yeah, but anyway, I've said I've seen it outfish it, and yeah, it's a really, really good. And I usually run it with a grub, a little 4-inch curly tail grub. Not necessarily this color on this, but I don't know, I just find it's better than using a swim bait that has a paddle tail, because I've said this before in tips and tricks. The paddle tail creates some resistance, and that'll often cause the spinnerbait to kind of go sideways because of the weight if you're working at a certain speed. But yeah, this thing combined with this is like, oh my, I've caught any lake I've gone to, if I've caught anything, and I usually caught and fish on spinnerbaits, it's always one of these, and usually a baby bass. And one of the reasons I like it is because it's a lot more subtle. It's just the one blade. I can like slow roll it. I can bring it up and over stuff, but just that one single blade looks like, you know, this is a baby bass, and it's like following this little thing or swim below it trying to eat it, and the bass sees it and goes, oh, look at that, he's not paying attention to me, and he'll come up, eat it. I mean, you get the double blade and the bigger blades. I don't know. I said everybody uses them, and people always say use something different, use something a lot of people don't use. And that's why I designed this really cool single blade spinnerbait. And I said it is my go-to, and I've been out of my boat at Pinot, and I've been catching, I'm like, I'm on a spinnerbait bite. I've caught like 10 already. He's like, really, what color am I? I'm like, I'm using this baby bass. And they may have something similar, more in this style, with the big double blades and everything. And they're like, yeah, after I talked to you, I went around, I tried to freaking spinnerbait, and I couldn't get a bite on it. I'm like, really? Because I caught like 5 or 6 more after I talked to you. And they're like, really? Well, what were you using? I mean, let me see it compared to mine. And I'll pull this thing out, and they're like, oh my God, I haven't seen a spinnerbait like that in years. One of those with just a little single Colorado blade. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why I think it's something different. They don't see it as much. And well, it just plain works. Like I said, with the 1/4 ounce. And one thing I will do with this is, this is a number 3 blade. I will actually bring number 2 blades with me, just in case I want to run a little faster, because the number 3 can run at a certain speed. You start to go too fast, and this thing will start to twist on it because of the resistance of the Colorado blade. So if I want to run a little faster, a little shallower, I will switch out to a number 2 Colorado blade on it. But I do always fish it with, like I said, a little grub. I like the grub because it gives it a little more girth to it, a little more, you know, thickness with that bigger grub on there. And the little curly tail usually spins just a little bit behind, so it looks like a little tail of a fish just behind the skirt, kicking along. Yeah, guys, you gotta, well, if you want to get them from me, because I think I am pretty much the only one that builds one of quality, you can contact me at bass@centercoastbass.com. That's kind of the way I do my custom baits now. It's more one-on-one. You send them to me, I'll tell you the price, I do some pictures of the colors available. So if anybody is interested in this Bass Slayer, this little 1/4 ounce single blade spinnerbait, my go-to spinnerbait, I will throw this every single time. unless the conditions, it's so windy or something like that that I have to switch to something heavier and bigger, I will go to a double blade. But I'm telling you guys, you got to, if somebody out there still makes them, because I can't find them, and you like the company and they do these little single blades, buy them. And like I said, usually stick to predator colors, or not bait fish. Don't do the shad, don't do that stuff. Stick with baby bass, something that looks like a bluegill, or maybe even black and blue, or I have some that are purple. Just an odd, different color, but dark. Don't do the light. I think these work better. My go-to too usually is a baby bass color. For some reason it catches a lot more, even if there's shad around. The shad around, but little baby bass might be feeding on those shad. And the bigger bass coming in there, and they're not targeting on the shad, they're eating the little bass that are feeding on the shad. So there you go, guys, my go-to bait. I said this is our little single blade pro spinnerbait that we produce. It's a killer. It's a Bass Slayer, I'm telling you. I've been fishing with these things now for like 10 years, and I can always catch them on this, even when other people have told me they tried to spinnerbait and couldn't get a bite. So there you go, my go-to single blade 1/4 ounce spinnerbait, single Colorado, not single willow. No confusion. I know a lot of people out there I've seen don't even know the difference of what's a willow and what's Colorado, or an Indian blade or whatever. But yeah, single Colorado. And there you go. I hope this helps. Give it a try. I said, even if you don't get them from me, but if you want them from me, you can contact me at centercoastbass.com. But you want to get them full size. They do sell Colorado ones, but they're like teeny little pond ones. And you want a full size with just that single blade. I said, I stick with 1/4 ounce. You might be able to go to 3/8, but give it a try, guys. Hope this helps. And until next time.